Ooh, I can work with this.
Alright, last sound. You ready, Professor?
Do it!
Hello everyone, I am Pixel and welcome to the Sapphire Tech YouTube channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at Dead Rising 4 running on the SAPPHIRE NITRO RX 480 graphics card. For the duration of this video, you'll be able to see the frame rate counter in the upper left corner of your screen, and the settings that we are running the game on is the game's default high preset. When it comes to performance, normally I like to invest a little bit of time in trying to come up with a nice custom preset that would allow me to target a certain frame rate while attempting to keep the visuals looking as pretty as possible. However, I found that lowering the settings would give a decent boost to frame rate in certain areas, yet in others it would dip almost as low as it would do on maximum settings. Also, I found it difficult to notice a difference visually when jumping from the high to the very high preset, but I did notice a fairly large dip in performance when doing so, around 10 to 15 FPS on average. What you will notice throughout this video is a rather big variation in the frame rate, but thankfully due to the nature of the gameplay, I really felt like it negatively affected my experience, especially when playing on a variable refresh rate monitor. Now with that said, let's move on and let's talk about the game itself. The story of Dead Rising 4 picks up 16 years after the events of the first game. This time Frank West reprises his role as the playable protagonist and he returns to the site of the original outbreak in Willamette, Colorado. Christmas is just around the corner, a new megaplex is opening and it's Black Friday, which all adds up to being the perfect breeding grounds for a new zombie virus. So as Frank, you are tasked with gathering up evidence of a conspiracy and getting to the bottom of the outbreak. While the story is fairly simple, the execution is not half bad for a game that is obviously not trying to take itself too seriously. For the most part, Dead Rising 4 knows what it does best and tries to stick to that formula. During the lengthy campaign, you will slaughter tens of thousands of the undead in brutal and often hilarious ways. Rather than directing you down a carefully crafted linear path, the developers provide you with an open world sandbox which in many ways encourages you to do things your own way and tackle the story at your own pace. You will spend much of your time exploring the mall and its surrounding areas in an attempt to uncover the conspiracy that led to the current outbreak, all while slaughtering zombies. Lots and lots of zombies. In fact, I think it's outright noteworthy that I don't think I have ever seen a game with so many enemies on screen at the same time, at least not ones that look this good. Sure, the game is nothing to write home about when it comes to the graphical department, but what it does lack in finesse, it more than makes up for in scale and spectacle. Along the way you will also be rescuing survivors, clearing out safe houses, searching for collectibles and hunting down the maniacs that replaced the psychopaths from the previous games. While the core gameplay loop is fairly simple, the developers do attempt to keep things interesting by switching up the scenery, adding new enemy types and drip feeding you new mechanics such as the exosuit, which is a time power up that turns you into a virtually indestructible instrument of doom. I mean, who would have guessed that a slushy machine could be so dangerous? Now, with the return of Frank West, we also see the welcome return of photography as a way to gain experience and to solve Batman Arkham Knight styled investigations. While the investigation system is nowhere near as fleshed out as the ones in Arkham Knight, it does act as a welcome change of pace from time to time. Though, to be frank, and yes that pun was most certainly intended, I just kinda wish that the system behind photography was a little bit more fleshed out because there's just something really fun and satisfying about trying to get that perfect selfie. Also, like most games these days, Dead Rising 4 does have some light character progression. As you level up, you will receive skill points that can be spent in the skills menu. To be honest, there's not really much here that we haven't already seen a dozen times before, and due to the game's lack of challenge, which is something I will talk about later on in this video, I just found myself focusing on the skills which made things a little bit more convenient, such as more inventory slots. The crafting system has also made a return from earlier games, but it has been somewhat streamlined. Throughout the world you will find blueprints that will allow you to craft special combo weapons and vehicles where you stand, rather than forcing you to go and find a crafting bench somewhere in the world, providing that you have got the ingredients on your person or in the immediate vicinity that is. With the game being set around Christmas, you will also find a nice and fairly sizable collection of Christmas themed combo weapons on display, which are awesome when put to work. One of my personal favourites is the Bamboo, which is a crossbow combined with fireworks, and it is most likely one of the most overpowered and satisfying weapons in the whole game to use, and it just so happens to be one of the very first blueprints that you will find. It's so much fun. Now, as good as the core gameplay loop is in Dead Rising 4, there are a few areas where I feel like the gameplay is lacking. For instance, I actually found the absence of any real challenge to be extremely frustrating. Earlier on in the game, it's not really a massive issue because you are constantly discovering new things, and that keeps the gameplay feeling fresh and engaging. However, once you start reaching that midway point of the story missions and the game starts introducing more and more enemy types, the enemies start to transition from this fun, lovable cannon fodder to this boring, frustrating nuisance. Because long after you have run out of new and interesting ways to dispatch your enemies, you will still have a lot of exploring left to do, and that exploring becomes a lot less fun when you are constantly being harassed. Now, I wouldn't mind as much if the enemies actually pose some kind of real threat, but they don't. It's almost as if the Horde exists purely to slow you down and to extend the length of the game, and to me that just doesn't feel very good. Unfortunately, this is not helped by the dreadful artificial intelligence on display. While sure, you can write off the odd bug as an enemy getting stuck in a wall or walking into an object or completely ignoring you, that's fine. It's just even when the AI is working, it's not working very well. I can honestly say that I cannot remember the last time I played a AAA game that had such brain dead artificial intelligence. Now, I am hoping that this can be addressed in future updates, because right now as it stands, the AI, especially on the human characters, is basically broken. I suppose the single most disappointing thing for me personally though is the lack of any multiplayer co-op campaign. I mean, we saw it in Dead Rising 2 and 3, and while there is a multiplayer here and it can be kind of fun, it's just not what I fear many people were hoping for. There is no doubt in my mind that I would have been able to convince a few of my friends to pick up this game themselves if we could have actually had the ability to play through the campaign together in co-op. I know it's unlikely, but I do hope and I do pray that Capcom may introduce campaign co-op in a future update, however unlikely that may be. In conclusion, I have to say that Dead Rising 4 is a fairly decent game, but it does lack much of what makes a Dead Rising game a Dead Rising game. While I was not really a fan of the global timer that was present in previous games, I have to admit the lack of urgency in this version of the game does hurt the gameplay. Now, I'm not saying that the timer should be reintroduced, I'm just simply saying that it kind of makes little sense to remove such an impactful system without actually offering a viable alternative. I mean, yes, the freedom to explore the game at your own pace is a massive positive in my eyes, but that lack of urgency that our timer provided is sorely missed. Also, due to the game being a universal Windows platform title, you will also have to contest with some of the inherent problems that leads to. Personally, I would recommend that if you are looking to pick up Dead Rising 4, maybe you should wait till the Steam version releases in March 2017. Hopefully by then some of these issues would have been cleaned up, and you never know, you might actually be able to pick up the game and the DLC at a fairly decent price. That said, if you are a hardcore Dead Rising fan, I am sure that you will find a lot to like here, and I doubt you'll be too disappointed with your purchase. I suppose to say how it is, Dead Rising 4 is a pretty decent game on its own, it's just not the best Dead Rising game there ever was. Anyway, that's going to be all for this video. If you are new to the channel, please take a second to hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with all the new videos from the guys over at Sapphire. Also, if you like the video, then please do remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you've got any questions or feedback, please do leave it in the comment section below this video. I will try and get back to any questions that you have. And once again, I want to say thank you for watching the video. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Bye bye.